So podcast number 2, Linda, we survived number 1 and we got some great feedback, and I wanted to welcome, a very warm welcome to all of our listeners, all of our watchers. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, for subscribing in on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and all those different media platforms, social media platforms that you all like. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the feedback. Please ensure that you keep it coming. It was really awesome to hear from you. And we love you guys having, being with us and staying connected. A warm welcome to my lovely co-host, Linda Miller. Linda, thanks so much for joining us again.
Oh,
really great to have you.
Great to be here, Alex.
Awesome. Good stuff. So today we're actually going to be talking about how to take your pharmacy from good to great. So if you're not interested in being great, this is your cue to switch off. Walk the dog, listen to some music, do something different. But if you really want to understand how to take things to the next level and improve revenues, profitabilities, team enhancements, team dynamic, vision, culture, those types of things, and of course making sure that you're connected to your community and making life a lot better for your community. If you're interested in growing the number of pharmacies you own and that type of thing, or just having an awesome team, you are in the right place. Certainly do not leave us today. What we're talking about is extremely powerful. We're looking at the successful pharmacy of today and how it was different from the past. And we're going to look at the universal principles that 70% of pharmacies find challenging to implement consistently, because we all have great ideas. We talk to pharmacists every day, all day, don't we, Linda? And they all have all these great ideas, and I need to do this and I need to do that. And then you talk to them 6 months later and they haven't done a single thing about it. And some of them, I've actually talked to some of them, and it's not just one person, it's a few, who 3 years later said, I wish I'd done something back then. So we're going to look at 70% of pharmacies, the principles that 70% of pharmacies find challenging to implement consistently today, how to actually work on the business instead of in it, as the cliche always goes, but it's just so important. And we're going to look at some of those particular solutions and key philosophies as to how to make things better, the 21st century solutions. And we're going to close off with Zig Ziglar, one of my personal favorites, in talking about the lack of direction, not lack of time. That is the problem. We all have 24-hour days. We all have 168-hour weeks. Everybody's busy. I've got friends who are unemployed, who have very busy lives when you talk to them. And I happen to be fortunate enough to have friends of mine who are CEOs of some of the biggest companies in the world. And I know what busy means. They know what busy means. We're all busy. So what is it that makes the difference? So we're going to be looking at that today. Stay tuned, and we'll make sure that we cover it. So first question, right?
Ready for it?
70% of pharmacies find challenging to implement consistently the universal principles. What are some of those particular things? Let's get straight into the meat and potatoes, or the meat and gravy, as we like to say.
Great question, Alex. Look, the great pharmacies do basic things very well. Maximising sales and profit, minimising expenses, creating efficiency using systems, or if they're using technology, making sure they've got good return on investment, are critical things. They're not rocket science. We all know what needs to be done. It's how you need to do it, indeed, if you do it. And, things like creating efficiencies is really important. And, all of these things are important. Where efficiency comes into play is that sometimes it involves investment. And, for example, a dispensary robot can be an awesome resource for your business. It can free up time, and time is as valuable as the sales and the revenue and the profits that are created as a result of that time. The thing is that people sometimes become so enamored of the technology, or so desperate to do something different, or they just want that new toy, that they don't take enough time to actually consider what's going to be the return on investment. And we are talking about being strategic and doing the analysis and doing your numbers before you commit to those things. At the other end of the scale, you do have some pharmacy owners who suffer from that paralysis from analysis. What is it? Paralysis from analysis?
Absolutely.
I think is the expression.
It sure is.
And, you know, that then means that no one can move forward.
Do you know what the number one reason why most businesses don't get off the ground when people are talking about their great idea and their great concept, what the biggest obstacle is, and why a lot of people never actually set up their own business is?
What's the obstacle?
They can't decide on the logo.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. So that is, you know, something so
basic.
It's so nothing, you know, we tend to focus on completely the wrong things, which is what you're talking about over here. Because true success is making sure that you invest 80% of your time on the 20% of the actions that are actually going to make a difference to your life, to your business. Those are the things that are absolutely essential. And one of the things that we love to say, you know, internally is, if you don't invest the time, you will never have the time.
Correct. And when you're talking about investing the time to make the time, it's investing the time in working on your business rather than being in your business. And it's great in theory. What happens is, you know, as times get tougher, a lot of pharmacy owners have gotten back on the tools. And they, in the short term, yes, that might be saving a bit on wages. In the long term, they're compromising their capacity to grow. Because if you're in there dispensing, talking to customers, not that you shouldn't ever do any of those things, but as the pharmacy owner, you need to be focusing on only those things that can move the business forward. And there's nobody else that can do that. Whether it's leadership, whether it's marketing, whether it's building the culture, creating a vision, all of those things start and end with the pharmacy owner. And really, you know, involving staff in all of that is critical. Again, as the pharmacy owner, you're the one who really gets that happening and introduces that into the culture. You know, having your staff brainstorming ideas, brainstorming solutions, you know, those are things, you don't have to do it all on your own. In fact, you know, the more you can involve your staff, the better. They have buy-in and you get some fresh ideas. The other way to get fresh ideas that is really important is to engage expert independent advisors to actually refine those ideas and also provide you with some proven success strategies that are going to help you achieve your objectives quicker. So those people can be anyone from, you know, obviously a specialist pharmacy business mentor, but your accountant, even, you know, different colleagues who work in different demographics can all provide some ideas or help you refine your strategies. Having a think tank, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. I guess, though, one of the big things about really building your business and taking it from good to great is you need to know exactly what's going on in your business. And again, it's a basic, and because it's a basic, sometimes people get really caught up and forget to analyze their business regularly. You know, set KPIs, monitor them on a regular basis, do SWOT analyses so you know what the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats are.
I cannot tell you how many times I've had discussions with people who own their own businesses, like pharmacists, who are actually not working to a strategy. They're working to a daily, I'm used to, this is my habit, and I've been doing this for the last 25, 30 years type sort of situation. And they're not simply working to a plan. And those that do sort out some sort of a plan or structure some sort of a plan don't execute the plan. So what was the point of doing it in the first place? So all these things you're saying right now are ringing true and really speaking to me, as I'm sure that they are with our listeners, which is absolutely, you know, integral in it. But you're so right. You have to begin with a strategy. You then have to sit down and work out, well, what is our objective? What is it we're wanting to actually do? You know, what's working really well right now? Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You could improve it, but what are the things right now that are costing you time, costing you money? I love what you said about, that you're multi-millionaire, because you were talking about a particular pharmacist just before, you and I, who happens to be a multi-millionaire, who considers his time just as valuable as revenue and sales. And, you alluded to that just now in terms of how valuable time really is, and making sure that you invest in the right areas. And that, the more time you have, the more revenue you can generate, and the bigger difference you'll make in the community. As you said before, I really, that really resonated with me, which means you have more time for your team, and the greater the opportunity for them to understand and fulfill customer needs, your vision and direction, which is only going to make not only a happier place to work, but one that actually makes a lot more money. And people think, well, you guys, you're talking about making a lot more money. I don't really care. Well, we both know that we don't love money, but we understand that it gives you more choices to do more with what you want to do. So that's one of the reasons why revenue and profitability are so important. And you also alluded to the fact that, I guess I don't want to send the wrong message to our listeners about, robots and other systems that you can integrate in there, because we talked about how a lot of times people buy them at the wrong time or don't utilize them properly. But we also know, we were talking about that particular pharmacist before that, before we got onto the podcast, he doesn't waste his time or their staff, their valuable energy, because you only have a certain amount of energy throughout the course of the day. We're not machines, let's just say really powerful machines, like well-designed Japanese and German type manufacturing and that type of thing. But the reality is that there is only a certain amount of energy during the course of the day. You need to focus your attention on the right areas. And of course, the right services or robotics can really help with that, which can lead to better customer interaction, outsourcing, and which allows the owner of the business, as you said, which I also thought really important to repeat again, to engage with the team and with their customers, motivate them, have time to manage the business, like looking at those impressive and all important key performance indicators, the statistics and the numbers that will give them a really good idea of what is actually happening inside my business. Today, so many business owners are actually flying aircraft, let's call it that, if the business is an aircraft, and most of the navigational instruments are turned off. And they're not even looking at them if they are actually on, because they think that they understand what the entire panel looks like nowadays, because they've been doing it for so long, without realizing, and how's this for an analogy, that the entire navigation panel or instrument panel has changed completely. There are easier ways to do things, that you can do things a lot better to make life a lot simpler for yourself and for running your business. And of course, that allows you then to be able to lead your team. And you and I both know that that is one of the biggest challenges that our listeners have as pharmacy business owners, because you can't lead the team if you're inundated working in the business most, if not all of the time.
Excellent question, Alex. And, as we've discussed, focusing on what's important in order that you can grow your business and take it from good to great means that you've got opportunities to outsource. And sometimes it is robotics. So, having a dispensary robot can be fantastic, and we've talked about that. But there are also packing services for your dose administration aids. Instead of having staff members manually packing boxes, wouldn't it be fantastic to actually have an off-site service doing that, which then means your staff are freed up to talk to customers and actually identify opportunities for more customers to go onto those dose administration aids and, automated, filling of scripts and those sorts of things. So, whether you're in Australia, whether you're, in the US, in Canada, in New Zealand, even the UK, these opportunities exist. Text reminders that that scripts are due. You can't have your staff actually ringing up or going through all your scripts that are due and ringing up customers and doing all of that. It can be an automated service. And if you do your sums, you quickly realise that there can be some really great return on investment in outsourcing those sorts of things, even payroll services. Freeing up your bookkeeper to do other things. I've had pharmacy owners who've got several pharmacies who are sitting there trying to monitor, they not only monitor their KPIs, which is what they should be doing as business owners, but they're actually plugging in the numbers, which is not what they should be doing. That's not where their time should be going, and nor should it be their pharmacists or their pharmacy assistants who are doing those sorts of things. They need to be interfacing with customers. If you've freed up your bookkeeper from doing payroll, then, for example, then they've got more time to actually go through, analyse, put the numbers in for the KPIs, so you can then analyse what are the results, what's happening in your business, analysing what's happening in your business. As I guess the key theme in what we've been talking about today is that time is as valuable as revenue, because the more time that you have, either as a business owner or in freeing up your staff, you can actually generate more revenue, and that ultimately is going to secure your place in the community, so you can continue to provide more and more value to your community. So these are some things really to have a think about and really consider, are you ticking those boxes? Are there some things that you could be doing a little bit differently? A lot of pharmacists are on the right track now. There's been more education around these things. The big question is how much action is being taken, and how much, how motivated are you to do things differently, understanding that, sometimes there is a bit of that tall poppy syndrome around, and, pharmacists are caring people. They care about people, and equally they like to be liked. And I think that's it's a normal human thing, I guess. The fact is, when you start doing things a little bit differently, you can get pushback. You might get pushback from your staff. You might get pushback from, from colleagues even who are more invested in sticking with the status quo and might feel a bit threatened by you doing things a bit differently. But the ones you won't get pushback from, the ones who will give you the positive feedback, that's going to be your customers and your community. And ultimately, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, well, we all know about what happens when you follow the crowd. That's the good old blockbustersaurus story.
Yes. You've got to differentiate. You have to differentiate, don't you?
Yeah, totally. And do things differently and not listen to everyone else. I mean, I know for a fact, going and listening to a lot of the speakers and the different associations and inside our industry, the education in relation to some of the newer aspects is magnificent in some areas. And, we encourage everyone to get more connected with that and to make sure to keep going. But we've also seen that a lot of people don't understand this new aspect of how to do things. A lot of people don't understand the aspects of doing those particular things. And it's important to have people guide you in terms of doing it. Tony Robbins is someone that I think is pretty cool. And he mentioned a long time ago, I remember I was one of his wonderful seminars 25 or so years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sticks with you though, doesn't it?
There's a lot of, this is it. If you allow the intelligent things to stick with you and you learn from them, rather than, you know of what to do, but without doing it, then you're in trouble. That's actually worse than, not knowing what you don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, then you're in a state of oblivion, but you can't really understand what's going on in your business and why people are leaving, or why you can't motivate them, or why one year is great and then the other one sucks, or the quarter was awesome in that. I personally, I absolutely despise living like that. I want to know what's going on. I want to manage my businesses as well as you. You know those particular fragments and sections in terms of how to think tactically and strategically, and that's exactly what we do as a mentoring group. But having said that, Tony Robbins did say, find someone who's done it well, done it successfully, and then copy them. Don't find someone who's just done it, because you could end up, and you usually do, end up in a lot of trouble. It's called the blind leading the blind. So, I absolutely love what you said about going out there and finding mentors and people to work with and friends who've done it successfully and asking them questions and getting them to show you, because that's what it's all about. It's learning together in our communities. And this is the very reason why we're doing these podcasts and hopefully delivering, some pretty insanely awesome information out to people, because that's what we want to do as well. We want to play our role in that, in terms of moving our industry forward, because we're absolutely passionate about that. But, I mentioned Zig Ziglar, in terms of, in summary of this podcast for today's session. He talked about, the lack of direction, not lack of time, was the problem. And I think that you've encapsulated that really well for us today, Linda. So, I really want to thank you for doing that. And, in summary, for some of the things that you've actually mentioned, it's about pharmacists who are successful, the multi-millionaires that we talk about, put their energy and efforts into goal setting, creating strategies, planning, delegating, and then implementing those particular strategies, and then reviewing the progress and correcting the course. You and I have a wonderful saying that we use all the time with our own personal clients, and that is, you can't course correct a stationary vehicle. And that's so true. But, those are the things that one has to do if they're looking for a pharmacy that's going to be going from good to great. If you don't want to have to deal with the pushback, as you mentioned, and I love that, by the way, because so many pharmacy owners and heads of departments for the big banner groups that we've spoken to in the past have told us how, surprisingly awful it's been sometimes when trying to implement stuff, because there has just been so much pushback. You mentioned the Australianism of tall poppy syndrome, and for those of you who are unaware of what that means, is that it's being a little bit of jealous and seeing someone really doing very well, and then just trying to cut them down. I think that's what it is, Linda. Yep. So so often people do try to do that for you, even though you might think that they want the best for you. So go your own way, go your own road. Blaze your own trail. Make your pharmacy great. Make your business great. Make your team great. Make them happy, and your customers will not only thank you for it, they'll love you for it, and therefore business will be really healthy. So I wanted to thank Linda again for her time. And before I do, I just wanted to remind you all to ensure that you go and click on the link that's available with this particular broadcast. It's the Pharmacy Breakthrough Checklist. This is the one that gets sucked down and downloaded a lot all over the world. It's the Pharmacy Breakthrough Checklist. This particular checklist will give you an incredibly good idea on identifying exactly where to increase your overall profitability, how to position your pharmacy as a community leader, and enhance the morale of your staff and your team members. It is something that we get a lot of great feedback on a regular basis. So be sure to download and click on that link before you go off today. If you've loved what we've said, please feel free to share this with the friends in the pharmacy game that you know well. Please don't forget to rate the show. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, our Twitter, our Instagram, etc., whatever way you like to communicate in social platform, if you want to be and stay connected to us and with us, make sure that you stick with that. We're talking about how multimillionaire pharmacists manage their time. Today, we talked about how time can be the enemy. Next time, Linda and I are going to go into a lot more detail about how multimillionaire pharmacists manage their time, and Linda is going to give us the deep insights that she has on this particular subject. And believe you me when I tell you, there are very few people on this planet with her background who can teach us about that particular subject. So don't forget to put that into your calendar and listen to it when that's available. Linda, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. It's been great chatting with you as always, and your insightful comments really just take things to the next level. And I trust, our listeners got super value from our conversation today and from what you had to offer in particular.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Compliments will get you everywhere.
Until next time.
Until next time, everyone. Thanks for booking in, checking in. See you later.
See you then.